Okay, well, thank you, Giselle. I'm happy to be here. Good morning or afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Just want to get started. We can go to the next slide, Stephanie, if we're ready. Just tell you a little bit more about myself. I lead our R&D microbiology lab at Gojo. I've been there for about 6 years. Prior to that, I worked in the pharmaceutical industry and other industries for more than 20 years, working in micro labs, doing a lot of testing, sampling, and I have a master's degree in molecular and cellular biology. And then Stephanie is also going to be talking with you today. So Stephanie, I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Hi, everyone. I met a bunch of you at the Ballpack Summit a couple weeks ago. I am a territory manager for Gojo. I've been working in the industry for about 10 years now. I started in field service, so lots of experience with dispenser placement, and I work across healthcare, commercial, industrial, you name it.
All right. Thanks, Stephanie. So as all of you know, there are a lot of hand hygiene options available out there to you as well as to your customers as well. And so this ranges anywhere from individual products to bottles to large bulk products that are available in these bulk dispensers. And so how do you know what's best for you? How do you know what should be avoided? And how do you know what you should recommend for your customers, especially in this post-pandemic environment? And so a lot of your customers are going to be cost conscious, understandably. And their first thought might be to go to these bulk type products. They may think that all these products work the same. So why not go with bigger, better, and most cost effective? So if you go to the next slide, we're going to talk about what bulk is. So I'm here today to share with you some of the scientific perspectives on bulk soap and sanitizer and give you a little bit of background information about these products and share with you some learnings that you can hopefully take back and share with your customers to help them make the best decision for them and for their customers when it comes to hand hygiene. So before we kind of dig into it, let's talk about what bulk is. So in the context of this presentation, what we're talking about when we say bulk is product that's purchased in a large quantity that's used to fill a reusable dispenser or other container. So if you think back to the previous slide, you've all seen probably these clear dispensers or stainless steel dispensers that have either a soap or a sanitizer in there. So on the surface, bulk dispensers may seem easy to use and cost effective, but there are some risks that you should be aware of and your customers should be aware of as well. These bulk dispensers can be difficult to clean and sanitize. So if you think about it, a lot of them are mounted to a wall permanently, so you can't take them off to clean them. They don't allow tracking of lot numbers and expiration dates. So again, those clear or stainless containers don't list the product that's in them. They don't have the lot number, the expiration date. So you think if you're using one of those, you're guessing what might be in there. Is it an ethanol-based sanitizer? Is it an N-propanol-based sanitizer? You don't really know. And a lot of these dispensers are not designed to prevent evaporation over time, and so this can affect product quality. And so most importantly, though, they can pose some hazards to the user due to bacterial contamination as well as substandard product. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So let's talk first about bulk soap dispensers. These have been around for a really long time. You can probably think about the last time you used them. I know for myself, I was in my kids' school a couple weeks ago and they actually had these bulk soap dispensers in the bathrooms. So because they've been around for a long time, there's been the opportunity for the scientific community to do some studies to really evaluate the health risks of these bulk soap dispensers. So a study was published in 2011, and it was a study done by the University of Arizona. And they went to five different cities, and they collected 541 soap samples from different bulk soap dispensers. They took them back to the lab and they tested them to see what kind of microbial contamination would be in there. And what they found was really concerning. They found that 1 in 4 of bulk refillable soap dispensers have bacterial contamination, and it was with unsafe levels of bacteria. So if you think about that, when you use one of these bulk soap dispensers, you have a 25% chance of getting bacteria on your hands. So you might think, okay, but I'm probably washing the bacteria away, right? Why is that really important? Well, another study was done by the University of Montana, and they looked at this same question. So they took bulk soap dispensers and they purposely contaminated them with bacteria. And then they tested users' hands before they used that contaminated soap from the dispenser and after they used the soap from the dispenser. And so the images in the middle of the screen there, you can see the image on the left says before. That was having the user push their hand onto an agar plate, so a hand stamp, to see what kind of bacteria was on their hand before they washed their hands with contaminated soap. And then you can see there's some bacteria on there, as you would expect. And then the image on the right that says after, that was after they washed their hands with contaminated soap. So even though they were washing their hands and rinsing away the soap, they were still left with 25 times more germs on their hands after washing with a contaminated soap from a bulk dispenser than before. So you might be thinking, where is all this contamination coming from? How did 1 in 4 dispensers get contaminated with bacteria in the first place? Well, if you think about where a lot of these bulk soap dispensers are placed, they're usually in restroom environments or high traffic environments. So every time you open one of these dispensers to refill it, you are exposing it to the environment. And we know that air is not sterile. There are germs everywhere. There are germs in the air. And so when you open this dispenser, you're offering the opportunity for potential fecal contaminants, fungal contaminants to be getting into this soap. And the more that get in there, the soap offers the opportunity for them to grow and proliferate in there. And over time, you can get high levels of bacteria. And when this happens, you can get something called a biofilm. And a biofilm is when bacteria develops this outer coating that makes them very resistant to any sort of sanitizing agents. And so another study was conducted again by the University of Montana to look at what happens with a bulk soap dispenser that has biofilm contamination. What does that really mean? And can you get rid of it? And so what they did is they took these contaminated bulk soap dispensers and they tried different cleaning and sanitizing techniques to see if they could get rid of that biofilm. And what they found was that even when they soak these dispensers, contaminated dispensers, for 10 minutes in bleach, which should kill everything, right? Because it's a biofilm and resistant to decontamination and sanitizing, they found that within 2 weeks, that bacteria was back in that dispenser and potentially contaminating users' hands. Next slide. So bulk soap sanitizer dispensers are a little bit more recent, right? So we've bulk soap dispensers have been around forever, but it seems like we've seen an increase in bulk sanitizers dispensers post pandemic. And so this probably stemmed from the fact that during the pandemic, it was really difficult to get hand sanitizer. And so a lot of customers resorted to what you see in the upper left hand picture there, buying it in bulk containers, like gallon containers, and then using or retrofitting these soap dispensers for the alcohol, thinking that it would probably be the same and wouldn't impact product quality. And so a study was published in 2022 to really look at the risks of using hand sanitizers in a bulk container. And what they found was 4 major findings. So the first was that there were unknown and unlabeled products in these bulk dispensers. And that's not surprising, right? We've all seen these clear, again, dispensers where you don't know what product is in there because it doesn't offer the opportunity to list the product name, the expiration date, the lot number. And these are really important things to note, as we'll talk about in just a minute. Secondly, there were visible impurities that were found in some of these bulk sanitizer samples. So upper right-hand picture gives you an example of something that they found during this study. So the black particles in there are most likely mold. So you might be wondering, how are you getting mold contaminants in there? I thought hand sanitizer killed all the bacteria. Well, the problem is that hand sanitizers don't kill mold spores. And so if you think again, with a bulk dispenser, every time you need to refill that, you're taking the cap off, you're exposing the product in there to the environment. You can have fungal spores that are floating around in the environment and they're getting into this product and contaminating it. And if you have a bulk dispenser that is not see-through, you could have this product, contaminated product in there that's being put on people's hands and you're not going to notice it. Third, there were potentially dangerous chemicals and dangerous levels of chemicals that they found in this study. So in this particular study, they found that 30%, actually more than 30% of the samples that they tested had acetyl and acetaldehyde in excess of regulatory guidelines. 6% of the samples had methanol in excess of regulatory guidelines, and this is a chemical that is really hazardous for users. And in some cases, these levels exceeded 5 to 10 times the allowed amount. So why is this important? Well, Health Canada and other regulatory agencies recognize that these chemicals, acetyl, acetaldehyde, methanol, can cause really serious problems for the users. They can cause anything from skin to lung irritation, potentially organ damage, cancer, and in even some serious cases, death. So definitely some things that you would want to avoid having in your hand sanitizers. And with these bulk products, it's much more difficult to regulate that. And lastly, there were lower substandard alcohol content found in a lot of these samples. If we go to the next slide, I'll talk in a little bit more detail about that. So a large group of the samples that they collected were from school environments, and in particular, a single school district. So if you sell into education markets, you've probably seen these bulk sanitizer dispensers up all over on the walls of schools. And this was again due to the ease of use during the pandemic, being able to get bulk product and put it in these dispensers. But what they found when they sampled these from this school district is that the majority of these, so 82% of these samples from a single school district, had alcohol levels that were below 60%. And so, why is that 60% threshold really important? That's because that's the threshold that's been set by regulatory agencies to show that you have an effective product, an effective hand sanitizer that's going to kill germs on hands as it's intended to. And so what we saw in this case is that the alcohol levels in these sanitizers was dropping below that 60% level, most likely due to evaporation. So if you look at the picture on the right there, this is an example of what would be inside of one of these bulk dispensers. Typically there's a cap that would be on the top of it where that would be removed to fill the dispenser. On the left, what they found in a lot of these dispensers in the school environment is that these caps had been removed, and potentially this was done by janitorial staff. They probably thought it was easier for them to get in and out of the dispensers. If they took the cap off, they could really quickly fill it. But what they didn't realize is that this is allowing the alcohol to evaporate. And over time, this is going to cause the percent alcohol in their hand sanitizing product to drop down to levels that are not actually killing germs on hands. So we can go to the next slide. So why is this important? Well, Health Canada recognizes that product that does not meet certain requirements is unsafe to use. And so during the pandemic, you probably saw a lot of these news articles that talked about large scale recalls, especially of hand sanitizer products, because they were not safe or effective. In fact, since 2020, there have been more than 100 lots and products recalled by Health Canada due to unsafe levels or possible contaminants in these hand sanitizers. And why this is important is Health Canada is saying these products are unsafe to use. But if you're using hand sanitizer in one of these bulk dispensers that doesn't allow the display of the lot number or the expiration date, you don't know if you have one of these products that has in fact been recalled in your dispenser, or maybe it's even mixed in with one of the products that's in your dispenser. And so you could be potentially exposing, your customer could be potentially exposing users to unsafe product. So what does this really mean, and how can you talk to customers about it? Well, I think, one of the things, and we can go back one slide, Stephanie. I think one of the things to think about with this is that if you see a customer with a bulk dispenser, I think there are some questions that you can ask them, and maybe jot these down to help you remember them. So for soaps, if you see that they have a bulk soap dispenser, you can ask them, did you know that 1 in 4 soap dispensers are contaminated with bacteria? Did you know that bacteria from the contaminated soap gets on your hands, potentially making them up to 25 times more germy than before you even washed your hands? You can also ask them if they knew that biofilms will develop in bulk dispensers unless you properly maintain them over time, and that even soaking them for 10 minutes in bleach is not going to get rid of that biofilm, and it's going to cause product to degrade over time and bacteria to get on hands. If you see, for example, in one of your customers in their environment, perhaps like a school or some of the other places that they're using this product for sanitizers, you can ask them what products in that dispenser. Do they even know? What's the lot number on that product? What's the expiration date? This means that, if they don't know that information, there are over 100 different products that have been recalled over the last 3 years. They could potentially be using one of these unsafe products and not knowing it, or using a product that's expired and not effective. You could also ask them, do you know that bulk dispensers are not made for alcohol-based products, and they could allow evaporation over time, resulting in product that is less effective against germs on hands. So we've talked a lot about efficacy, and if you move to the next slide, Stephanie, why is efficacy so important for soaps and sanitizers? So you've probably all seen in the news recently that there was an outbreak of E. coli in Calgary, which resulted in 350 cases of bacterial infection. And this was important because this outbreak affected 11 daycares. Through the investigation that Health Canada is doing, and they have narrowed it down to the most likely cause being a central kitchen. And even though they're still determining the exact cause of the outbreak, it's really important to note that E. coli is a fecal pathogen, and it's something that could be transmitted from unwashed hands to food. So this is a really good real world example of why it's really important to have safe and effective soap and sanitizer products that you know are really going to work. Stephanie?
Okay, so for me, the most important takeaway from Mary's comments here is that when you see bulk sanitizer, I want you to see an opportunity to sell a product to your customer and make their facility safer. So, how do you know what products to sell again? These are a really good review of the points Mary went over. There's no ingredient list on a label. You can't know what's in it. You can't know anything about its safety if you don't know what's in it. Past expiration dates. This is something where we are finding a lot of opportunity right now because typically sanitizers have a 3-year expiry, and 3 years ago from now is when a lot of people were buying, right? So we've been seeing this come up more and more, and we're having people reach out to us. If it doesn't have a lot code is how we trace our manufacturing, as many of you are going to be familiar with. If it doesn't have a lot code, you can't trace anything about the ingredients that it was or wasn't, that what were not used in the manufacturing. Bad odor and irritate skin. For me, this is the biggest conversation piece because everybody here during the pandemic went to a store and there was a folding chair with a gallon and a pump nozzle and something in that bottle. And you might use it and your hands are stuck together now. It smells bad. It's a very, very poor experience for the people who are actually using the product. This one here is the biggest wedge to talk about a sale there, because that's a problem that is very easy to solve. And for those who we saw at the Balpex Summit, you may recall that we have a stand promotion on right now where we will give end users stands at no charge for the purchase of a case of product. So right there, you've solved a problem for the cost of replacing that jug. Particularly products that are mislabeled or not in an original labeled container. Before I was in sales, I was in field service, which is like customer service, and I would get calls and people would say my Purell dispenser doesn't work. And I would go there and it would be a hand sanitizer dispenser, but it wouldn't be Purell. At this point, people have a much, much better understanding of branding and what a recognizable name means. So throughout the pandemic, we also saw bottle stuffing, right? Where people would cut the hole off the top, effectively making a bulk dispenser. These are all problems for your end users. That's not sanitary. It's not clean. It's not even easy to facilitate the refilling of. And those are great wedges to start a conversation. How are we different? Our dispensers are sanitary sealed, which mitigates the risk of these bulk dispensers. So they're made in a clean facility, hermetically sealed, nothing's going in or out. That's the base. When your customers are buying something that fits dispenser, they always click in. It's like a puzzle piece. You can't just buy something from the dollar. Our values are what and why. So those quick bullet points, like what Mary said. Did you know 25% of dispensers are contaminated? Did you know you get 25 times more germs? These are other quick things that are easy to remember and great to talk about. Factory sealed. All of those gross pictures, which I will happily share with anybody who wants them. If someone ever found my phone, they'd probably be very concerned with the amount of dirty dispenser pictures that I have. But the factory sealed reduces all of that. You can't have mold inside the dispensers. You can't tamper with them when they're sealed at manufacturing. Reduce risk of contamination. You can't cross fill them. It's less messy. As I'm sure most of you know, our dispensers, you push a button, the bottle comes out, you click the new bottle in. Very, very easy to facilitate for housekeeping or EVS, whoever's doing that. Reduce labor time. You're not spending that time unscrewing a lid, losing a lid, dropping a lid. It's just going to be a smoother experience. And sustainability. I saw in the Ballpex newsletter that Giselle sent, one of our files there, a PDF, is our sustainability promises. So you can download that. For me, sustainability is something that I really didn't talk about before the pandemic, but consumers became a lot more educated on the products they're consuming during that time. Um, from vaccines to having questions about where ingredients are from, right? Once you see a product you use every day recalled, every couple months, a couple new names recalled, it's going to make you ask questions. How do we help solve this problem? So, the takeaways from this, you have your questions from Mary, you have your answers from our slides. And how are we going to actually facilitate that with you? We have price programming in place right now for no charge dispenser systems. As we said, and probably most of you saw at the show, we also have a spiff for free stands right now. We can do special pricing on hand hygiene products, whether you purchase directly from us or through Fortis. We can write contracts. So when you have an opportunity, or maybe you have 50 customers these sold bulk product to, you want to increase, you want to take a look at a conversion program, we're happy to work with you on that as well. One thing that I got asked in 80% of the conversations we had was installation support. So for opportunities of a certain size, we can send someone out to put those dispensers up. Alternatively, we're happy to pay you or your end user some cash to put the dispensers up themselves. For 5 dispensers, it doesn't make sense necessarily to send somebody out to do it. They're usually happy to do so. And the 3 tenets of our brand are efficacy you can trust, it's gentle on your skin, and that preferred experience. And speaking of preferred experiences, as salespeople, we love numbers, especially positive ones. So a few more tidbits to take with you. And I think I saw a chat asking about sharing the presentation, and we'll send a PDF, like a highlights reel after, because these are great things to know. 2/3 of establishments that offer Purell brand products to customers, people perceive that it's showing they care about their health and wellness. And do you sell into a gym, into a daycare, into education? These are all places where people's explicit concerns are health and wellness. Almost the same amount of people have a more positive impression when they see those brand names like Purell for guest use. And finally, they feel more confident about facilities' cleanliness when they see Purell brand products. In closing, we would like to thank you all very much for your time, probably some of your lunch hour, maybe your first call of the day. If you have technical questions, please reach out to Mary. If you have questions about sales or opportunities, please reach out to me. We're here to answer any questions you have.
Thank you,
That's it for me.
everybody. If there are any questions that you'd like to have asked today, please put those in the chat. I did see a question with regards to presentation deck. So to Stephanie's point, she will share that, and we will upload those PDFs to, of course, the Ballpix portal. So you'll be able to download not only this presentation webinar, but those top points that were asked. I do have a quick question that's come, ladies, and maybe somebody can help me answer this. We talked a lot about bulk dispensers on the presentation today. What is Gojo finding with regards to the success ratio of converting bulk dispensers over to any of your systems, whether they be soap or sanitizer?
So I'll take this one, if that's okay, Mary. One of the biggest areas where my customers have seen success is actually education. One of our dispensers is 2 liters, and that is an excellent fit for the education market. And it's also extremely affordable because there's not battery or computer technology in it. So I would say that education is a huge opportunity. Recognizing that that comes in RFPs, we are also always happy to support trials or anything like that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Does anyone else have any other questions that they'd like covered today? Not like any of us are going to jump over to eat any turkey now that we heard about the fungal matter in the hand sanitizer dispensers, but we really do appreciate being educated, and we appreciate all of your time. and certainly the support that we've received from the Gojo team. Again, whether you're a direct Gojo partner or you're procuring your products indirectly, Stephanie, Andrew, the rest of the team here in Canada has always made themselves available for us on dual calls. So let's please take advantage of them. We will get this out and recorded. It roughly takes us about a day. So you will see this loaded onto the Bulpex portal by tomorrow. So thank you everyone for your time, and all the best for Thanksgiving long weekend.